Yo, how's it going everybody? You got Sketch here and welcome back to the channel. On this episode we're checking out more horror themed light gun games and playing one of SNK's most brutal games that I could think of. We recently looked at Lethal Enforcers for the Super Nintendo, and this makes that game look like child's play with its over-the-top graphical dismemberment. We're looking at Beastbusters, developed and published by SNK, released to arcades in 1989. This light gun game is one of the craziest I've played up to this point, and its off-the-wall visuals are amongst few that push the envelope of grisly animation. The story goes something like this. In the year 1990X, the deceased begin to rise and attack the living. The city's mayor puts out an offer to anyone who can figure out why this is happening and contain the hazard will be handsomely rewarded. 3 bounty hunters heed the call, being Johnny Justice, Paul Patriot, and Sammy Stately, who embark on a journey to the beast-filled city, and what they uncover may shock you. Gameplay wise, you got a 2D light gun shooter spanning 7 stages where you'll blast any and everything that moves. You can either take on the Beastmaster solo or with up to 3 players simultaneously. You got a machine gun with several onboard magazines, and once they reach 0, your gun becomes a single shot pistol until you find more ammo. You get 3 types of grenades, being electric, fragment, and incendiary charges, an RPG, and health packs along the journey, and these will help ensure mission success. The first stage has you battling the undead through a mall, and enemies are coming at you from every angle. Zombie dogs, birds, and everything in between are out to delete you, and you must outgun the ops to survive. As you progress, the amount of enemies on screen gets absolutely ridiculous, basically overwhelming you more each stage. This game will also throw more projectiles your way than an uncapped fire hydrant. If you have grenades, you're better off throwing them since your inventory does not stack on continues. Picking up various grenade types do stack, adding 1 variant to your inventory though, however. Considering how fast you take damage, the best strategy is to always be firing and throw whatever you got at the game. To say this game is difficult is an understatement, especially if you're playing it solo. With the 3-player cabinet, this makes more sense considering there's 2 other players who can manage the crowd on screen, but playing solo will quickly have you surrounded and often smoked. The grenades and rockets will help you thin out those numbers when you're getting rushed, but this game is going to clap you up a few dozen times during its 7-stage run. You can stack up big scores, but you have to stay alive to get bonuses, otherwise it gets reset on each respawn. Bosses will be in the middle and at the end of each stage, and stage 7 will take you through a gauntlet of several past bosses leading up to the Mad Scientist and the alien mainframe. Boss characters in typical arcade fashion are here to separate you from your pocket money, and most will do it quickly. Encounters often have several forms, and as mentioned earlier, they have projectiles that are going to light you up with a flurry of items. With enough firepower and credits, you'll eventually break through each op, but be prepared for a fight. Graphics wise, Beastbusters uses the same hardware as SNK's Mechanized Attack, which released in 1988. By comparison, this falls more in line with the dynamic scrolling of Taito's Operation Thunderbolt, which also hit arcades that same year. Visually, you get an over-the-top gore fest as you run the game's 7 stages. Enemies explode when double tapped, and even works in some body horror elements the farther into the game that you get. By the climax, your arsenal and the amount of enemies on screen create an eruption of pixelated viscera that only escalates as it goes on. Each level hits different parts of the city, leading to the laboratories, and these are well-detailed arenas as you mow through endless swarms of zombies. Scrolling will move vertically and horizontally, with a few instances of you moving forward through corridors. Enemies will vary their attacks as the perspective changes while popping into the frame from various positions. The ones that follow you up the elevators on zombie owls are particularly fun ones to see. Beastbusters also throws a lot of enemies on screen at once, at times getting north of a dozen ops. You get several gnarly boss characters like the Rock Golem, Mutated Jeep, zombie biker gangs, and Final Encounter, all of which have some insane designs. Considering most counters have several forms, these become explosions of limbs and entrails quickly. There's even a boss as a giant mutated owl that hurls smaller owls at you. For being an early SNK light gun game, this one is impressive with its pacing and large amounts of enemies on screen at a time. Your HUD gives you your remaining ammo supply, explosives, and life bar, along with showing you if you have any special items equipped. Your nameplate will change to you being attacked by zombies once you lose your final hit point and have to continue. Each stage has short cutscenes unraveling more of the story, and the ending is one of the sickest twist endings next to a handful of later SNK machines. Seeing the alien mothership coming down to Earth after battling swarms of beasts is quite the switch, and it's one of those games that when it's over, you're just like, damn, arcade games can have endings where the good guys still lose. Sound-wise, Beastbusters has some pretty sick tunes despite the on-screen chaos shifting the focus from listening to them. Composers Toshikazu Tanaka and Masahiko Hataya craft some almost Lucio Fulci meets John Carpenter tracks, and the interlude tunes during cutscenes are straight up grooves despite being brief. This coupled with the fanfares of the score breakdowns give a fairly broad spectrum of brooding dread and subtle action. Audio work are blasts of gunfire and wails of beasts being double tapped into the Shadow Realm, with an occasional explosion as you feverishly toss grenades. There is some very light voice synth here, with each number of the stage being announced, along with the sound bites of each character losing a stock when overrun by the zombie nation. Weapon audio and the various explosions sound good here, with some oomph behind each round and rocket. Beastbusters is a ride of a game, and for being one of SNK's earlier rail shooters, it's insane how over the top this is. While the difficulty is manageable for a solo player, it's recommended to tackle it with a team that can help you with crowd control. The alternative is to have a lot of credits since this one's going to drain your tokens stock even if you're doing well. Enemies do a lot of damage quickly, and the game takes about 35 to 40 minutes to complete. While there's only one ending, its shock factor is worth playing through at least once to see it. Also, being part of the SNK 40th Anniversary Collection, it's a welcome addition, and perhaps in the future SNK will eventually port the sequel Second Nightmare to modern consoles. Beastbusters gets an 8 out of 10 and comes recommended for rail shooter fans, and fans of over-the-top arcade games, so this was definitely pushing it with the gore at the turn of the decade. Outside of a few titles and franchises, SNK really went for it here with this action horror game, and it looks and plays well even when it's getting hectic. If you see this one at your local arcade, drop some coins in and see how far you can get. Otherwise, it's available on the Atari ST, Amiga, and part of the SNK 40th Anniversary Collection on the Xbox One, PS4, Nintendo Switch, and PC. And if you made it this far into the video, thank you again for watching. If you find this video helpful, that's awesome, glad to use it as a resource. Check back often, we'll have more reviews and commentaries come up in the near future. But until then, take it easy and stay safe out there. I'll see you on the next one.